The lights in the medical bay of Nexus Prime flashed red as another alarm blared through the corridors. Dr. Elena Voss lay on the medical table, her scaled purple skin turning a sickly gray color. Her chest rose and fell in quick, shallow breaths that grew weaker with each passing moment. "Her oxygen levels are dropping fast," Dr. Kell said, his 4 eyes scanning the medical readouts with growing concern. The Centaurian doctor had seen many medical emergencies in his 20 years aboard the research station, but nothing quite like this. Elena was a Thylaurian, one of the few of her species to leave their home world and work among other races. Her people were known for their brilliant minds and their unique biology. They had 2 separate lung systems connected by special breathing tubes called respiratory ducts. This design helped them survive in their planet's thin atmosphere, but it also made them very different from other species. "Doctor, I cannot breathe," Elena whispered, her voice barely audible. Her webbed hands clutched at her throat as she struggled to get air into her lungs. The secondary breathing passages in her neck were completely blocked, cutting off air to her backup lung system, the medical bay filled with worried colleagues. Commander Rex, a tall humanoid with bronze skin, stood near the wall watching the doctor's work. 2 engineering officers from the maintenance crew had also arrived, drawn by the emergency alerts echoing through the station. "What exactly is happening to her?" Commander Rex asked, his voice tight with concern. Dr. Kell pulled up a holographic display showing Elena's internal structure. "The Thylaurian respiratory system is very complex. They have primary lungs like most species, but also a secondary system that helps them process different types of air. The connecting ducts have become blocked somehow. Can you clear the blockage?" Rex asked. "That is the problem," Dr. Kell admitted, his shoulders sagging. "I have never treated a Thylaurian before. Their anatomy is so different from anything I know. The computer databases have basic information, but nothing detailed enough for this kind of emergency surgery." Elena's breathing became even more labored. Her secondary lung system was completely cut off now, and her primary lungs were working overtime to keep her alive. But they were not designed to work alone for long periods. "Please," Elena gasped. "The blockage. It feels like something solid ... stuck in the main duct ... Dr. Kell tried several standard procedures. He used sonic waves to try to break up the blockage. He injected medicines that were supposed to reduce swelling. He even attempted to use a tiny robotic probe to reach the blocked area. Nothing worked. "The duct system is too narrow and curved," he explained to the worried onlookers. "The blockage is deep inside, and I cannot reach it with our standard tools. If I try to force it, I might damage the delicate tissues and make things worse." Elena's vital signs continued to decline. Her purple skin was now almost completely gray, and her breathing was becoming desperate. The medical monitors showed that her blood oxygen levels were dropping to dangerous levels. "How long does she have?" Commander Rex asked quietly. "At this rate, maybe 20 minutes, Dr. Kell replied, his voice heavy with defeat. "Maybe less." The room fell silent except for the steady beeping of the medical equipment and Elena's struggling breaths. Everyone watched helplessly as one of their colleagues slowly suffocated despite being surrounded by advanced medical technology. "There has to be something we can do," said Lieutenant Maya, one of the engineering officers. "We cannot just let her die." "I'm sorry," Dr. Kell said, "but I do not have the knowledge or tools to help her. The Thylaurian government should have provided detailed medical information when they sent her here, but they did not. I am essentially working blind." Elena's eyes began to close as her strength faded. Her breathing became even more shallow, and the medical alarms grew louder and more urgent. The most advanced medical facility in this part of the galaxy was about to lose its first patient to a condition that might have been treatable if they only understood her species better. "Commander." Rex placed a comforting hand on Dr. Kell's shoulder. "You did everything you could, Doctor." But Dr. Kell could not accept defeat so easily. He continued to study the holographic displays, searching for any solution he might have missed. The blocked duct was clearly visible on the scans, but it was located in such a complex part of Elena's anatomy that traditional medical approaches seemed impossible. If only we had someone who understood fluid dynamics, he muttered to himself. This is more like a plumbing problem than a medical one. Elena's breathing stopped for several seconds, then resumed with a gasping sound that made everyone in the room wince. Time was running out, and conventional medicine had reached its limits. Tom Rivera was deep inside the station's main ventilation shaft when he heard the emergency announcements echoing through the corridors. He had been working on a blocked air filter that was causing problems in Section C, but the medical emergency sounded serious enough to pause his work. Tom was a maintenance engineer, one of the few humans aboard Nexus Prime. He had been working on the station for 3 years, fixing everything from broken doors to complex atmospheric systems. His job was not glamorous, but it was important. The station's many different species needed very specific environmental conditions to survive, and Tom's expertise kept everyone breathing safely. As he made his way toward the medical bay, Tom could hear the tension in the announcements. Someone was dying, and the medical team was struggling to help them. Tom had seen medical emergencies before, but this one sounded different, more desperate. When Tom arrived at the medical bay, he found a crowd gathered outside. Through the transparent walls, he could see the medical team working frantically around a patient on the table. The patient appeared to be a Thylorian, based on the distinctive scaled skin and body structure. "What is happening?" Tom asked Lieutenant Maya, who was standing near the entrance. "Dr. Elena is dying," Maya replied grimly. "Something is blocking her breathing tubes, and Dr. Kell cannot clear it. He says their anatomy is too complex for standard medical procedures." Tom watched through the window as Dr. Kell worked desperately to save his patient. The doctor's movements were becoming more frantic as time ran out. Tom could see the holographic display showing Elena's internal structure, and something about it looked familiar. "Can I take a closer look?" Tom asked. Maya shrugged. "I do not think there is anything you can do, but sure." Tom entered the medical bay quietly, not wanting to disturb the medical team's work. He positioned himself where he could see the holographic display clearly. The image showed Elena's respiratory system in detail, the primary lungs, the secondary lung system, and the complex network of ducts that connected them. "Interesting," Tom murmured, studying the display. The duct system reminded him of something he had seen before. The way the tubes curved and branched looked very similar to the piping systems he worked with every day. The blockage was located at a junction point where several ducts met, just like the clogs he regularly cleared in the station's plumbing. "Doctor," Tom said quietly, "what exactly is blocking her breathing?" Dr. Kell looked up from his work, surprised to see a maintenance worker in his medical bay. "I believe it is some kind of mucus plug or tissue swelling, but I cannot reach it." To remove it, Tom studied the display more carefully. The blockage appeared to be solid and was located in a section of the duct system that curved sharply. The shape and position reminded him of the clogs he had cleared from the station's water recycling system just last week. "Have you tried using pressure differentials?" Tom asked. "What do you mean?" Dr. Kell replied, pausing in his work. "Well, looking at this system, it operates like a fluid dynamics network. If something is stuck in the pipes, sometimes you can clear it by creating the right pressure changes. You push from one side and pull from the other." Dr. Kell stared at Tom for a moment. "You are a maintenance engineer, not a medical doctor. This is a living being, not a machine." "I understand that," Tom said patiently. "But the principles might be similar. I clear blocked pipes all the time." This looks like a more complex version of the same problem. Elena's breathing became even more labored, and her vital signs dropped further. Dr. Kell looked at his patient, then back at Tom. Conventional medicine had failed. "Maybe it was time to try something unconventional. What are you suggesting?" Dr. Kell asked. Tom pointed to the holographic display. "If I am right, the blockage is acting like a cork in a bottle. You need to create pressure behind it to push it out, but also reduce pressure in front of it to give it somewhere to go. The curved shape of the duct makes it tricky, but not impossible." "And how exactly would you do that?" I would need to modify some of your medical equipment, Tom said. Create a system that can control pressure very precisely. It would be like clearing a blocked drain, but much more delicate. Dr. Kell hesitated. Tom was not a medical professional. He had no training in alien anatomy or surgical procedures. But Elena was dying and nothing else had worked. If you are wrong, you could kill her, Dr. Kell warned. Tom looked at Elena's gray skin and labored breathing. Doctor, with respect, she is dying anyway. At least this gives her a chance. The medical bay fell silent except for the sound of Elena's struggling breaths and the urgent beeping of the monitors. Everyone watched as Dr. Kell made the most difficult decision of his career. Tell me exactly what you need, Dr. Kell said finally. Tom moved quickly but carefully, knowing that every second counted. He had convinced Dr. Kell to let him try his unconventional approach, but now he had to prove that his engineering knowledge could save Elena's life. I need your surgical irrigation system, Tom said, pointing to a device near the medical table. And do you have any pressure gauges that can measure very small changes? Dr. Kell gathered the equipment while Tom studied the holographic display. Of Elena's respiratory system? He traced the path of the blocked duct with his finger, visualizing how the air should flow through the complex network of tubes. The blockage is here, Tom said, pointing to a junction where 3 ducts met. It is like a 3-way pipe junction where something got stuck. The normal airflow cannot push it out because the pressure is not focused in the right direction. Tom began modifying the irrigation system, connecting it to pressure sensors and control valves he had borrowed from the station's engineering department. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, creating a device that could deliver precisely controlled pressure to specific points in Elena's respiratory system. This is insane, muttered Commander Rex, watching Tom work. A maintenance worker is about to perform surgery on an alien. It is not surgery, Tom corrected, not looking up from his work. It is more like advanced plumbing. Dr. Kell watched nervously as Tom assembled his improvised medical device. How can you be sure? This will work? I cleared a similar blockage in the station's water recycling system last week, Tom explained. The principle is the same. You create pressure differentials to move stuck objects through curved pipes. The main difference is that Elena's system is much more delicate. Tom finished his modifications and tested the pressure controls. The device could now deliver gentle, precisely controlled pressure to specific points in Elena's respiratory system. He had also rigged up a suction system that could create negative pressure to help pull the blockage free. Are you ready? Tom asked Dr. Kell. The Centauran doctor nodded reluctantly. What do you need me to do? Monitor her vital signs closely. If anything goes wrong, tell me immediately. I will need to work slowly and carefully. Tom positioned the modified irrigation system near Elena's breathing passages. He had studied the holographic display so carefully that he could visualize the exact path the air should take through her complex duct system. Here we go, Tom said quietly. He activated the pressure system, delivering a gentle but steady stream of air into Elena's primary breathing passage. The pressure was carefully calculated to push against the blockage from the optimal angle. Pressure is building behind the blockage, Tom reported, watching his improvised gauges. Now, I need to create suction on the other side. He activated the suction system, creating negative pressure in the secondary duct system. This would help pull the blockage forward once it started to move. I can see something happening on the display, Dr. Kell said, his voice tense with concentration. The blockage is shifting slightly. Tom increased the pressure gradually, being careful not to damage the delicate tissues. He had done this procedure hundreds of times with pipes and ducts, but never with a living being. The margin for error was much smaller. Come on, Tom whispered, adjusting the pressure controls. Just like clearing a clogged drain. Suddenly, Elena's breathing changed. Instead of the shallow, desperate gasps she had been making, she took a deeper breath. Then another. Something is working, Dr. Kell said excitedly. Her oxygen levels are starting to improve. Tom continued the pressure treatment, carefully working the blockage through the curved section of Elena's duct system. He could visualize the obstruction moving through the narrow passages, following the path of least resistance created by his pressure differentials. The blockage is moving toward the main chamber, Tom reported. Almost there. Elena suddenly coughed, a deep, productive sound that made everyone in the medical bay hold their breath. Something flew out of her mouth, a small, dark object that landed on the medical table. What is that? Commander Rex asked, staring at the object. Dr. Kell examined it with his scanner. It appears to be a piece of crystallized mineral, probably from our home planet's atmosphere. It must have built up in her duct system over time. Elena's breathing immediately improved. Her skin began to regain its normal purple color, and the medical monitors showed her oxygen levels rising. Rapidly, the secondary lung system was working again, and her body was getting the air it desperately needed. It worked, Dr. Kell said, his voice filled with amazement. Your pressure technique actually worked? Tom powered down his improvised device and stepped back from the medical table. Just basic fluid dynamics, doctor. The same principles apply whether you are working with water pipes or breathing tubes. Elena opened her eyes and looked around. The medical bay. Her voice was still weak but much stronger than before. What happened? I can breathe again. This human engineer saved your life, Dr. Kell explained, gesturing toward Tom. He used engineering principles to clear the blockage that was killing you. Elena turned to look at Tom, her large eyes filled with gratitude. You saved me? But you are not a doctor. Tom smiled and shrugged. Sometimes the best solution comes from thinking about a problem in a different way. I just treated your breathing system like any other fluid transport network. The medical bay erupted in cheers and applause. Tom had done something that advanced medical technology could not. He had saved Elena's life using nothing but practical engineering knowledge and creative problem-solving. Dr. Kell shook Tom's hand warmly. I've learned something very important today. Medical problems are not always solved by medical thinking alone. As Elena's vital signs continued to stabilize, word of Tom's successful intervention began to spread throughout the station. The human maintenance engineer had just proven once again that his species' reputation for innovative thinking was well-deserved. Within an hour of Elena's recovery, news of Tom's remarkable intervention had spread throughout every section of Nexus Prime. The story grew with each telling. How a human maintenance worker had saved an alien's life when advanced medical technology had failed completely. Elena sat up on the medical table, her purple skin now glowing with healthy color. Her breathing was steady and strong, both lung systems working perfectly together. She looked at Tom with wonder, still amazed that someone with no medical training had understood her species' biology better than trained doctors. I do not understand, Elena said, her voice much stronger now. How did you know what to do? My own people's doctors would have struggled with this problem. Tom scratched his head and smiled. I guess I just saw it differently. When I looked at your breathing system, I did not see alien anatomy. I saw a network of tubes with a blockage problem. I work with similar systems every day. Dr. Kell was still examining the crystallized mineral that had been blocking Elena's duct. This is fascinating. The mineral must have been building up slowly. Over months, maybe even years. It formed a perfect plug at the junction point. But how did Tom know exactly where to apply pressure? Commander Rex asked. The duct system is so complex. Tom pointed to the holographic display, which still showed Elena's respiratory network. See how the tubes curve and branch? It is exactly like the ventilation systems I maintain. When something gets stuck in a curved pipe, you cannot just push harder. You have to change the pressure from multiple directions. Elena nodded slowly. The doctors on my homeworld always treat blockages with medicine or surgery. They never think about ... What did you call it? Fluid dynamics? That is right, Tom said. Sometimes the old ways are not the best ways. Sometimes you need to think. Like an engineer instead of a doctor. Word of Tom's success had reached the highest levels of the station's command structure. Captain Morris, the station commander, arrived at the medical bay with several senior officers. The captain was a tall, imposing figure from the Rigelian species, known for their logical minds and careful decision-making. "Mr. Rivera," Captain Morris said formally, "I have heard remarkable reports about your intervention here. Is it true that you saved Dr. Elena's life using maintenance techniques?" Tom stood up straighter, feeling suddenly nervous under the captain's intense gaze. "Yes, sir. I just applied some basic engineering principles to clear a blockage." "Basic engineering principles," Captain Morris repeated, looking at Elena's healthy appearance and the medical readouts showing her stable condition. "Mr. Rivera, what you did was far from basic. You solved a problem that stumped our best medical professionals." Dr. Kell stepped forward. "Captain, I must admit that Tom's approach was brilliant. He saw the medical problem from a completely different angle. His engineering background gave him insights that my medical training could not provide." Elena swung her legs off the medical table and stood up, testing her strength. "I feel completely normal again. Better than I have felt in months, actually. I think this blockage was affecting me for a long time without me realizing it." "This is exactly the kind of innovative thinking that makes humans so valuable," Captain Morris said. "Mr. Rivera, your actions today have saved a life and demonstrated the importance of interdisciplinary problem-solving." Tom felt his cheeks growing warm. "I just did what anyone would do, sir. I saw someone in trouble and tried to help." "No," Elena said firmly. "Not anyone would have done what you did. Most people would have stepped back and let the doctors handle it. You saw a solution where others saw only problems." Lieutenant Maya, who had been watching the entire scene, spoke up. "Tom, this is going to change everything. What you did today proves that we need different kinds of thinking in our medical responses." Dr. Kell nodded enthusiastically. "I have been thinking about this since Elena recovered. We need to create new protocols that include input from engineers, technicians, and other specialists when we face unusual medical situations." Captain Morris looked thoughtful. "Dr. Kell, I want you to work with Mr. Rivera to develop these new protocols. This incident has shown us that medical emergencies do not always require purely medical solutions." Tom felt overwhelmed by the attention. "I am just a maintenance engineer, sir. I fix air filters and repair pipes." "Mr. Rivera," Captain Morris said with a slight smile, "you have just proven that fixing pipes and saving lives might not be so different after all." Elena walked over to Tom and placed her webbed hand on his shoulder. "Tom, in my culture, when someone saves your life, you owe them a debt that can never be repaid, but I want to try. I want to work with you to help others." "What do you mean?" Tom asked. "I am a medical officer, but I am also a researcher. I study how different species adapt to new environments. Your engineering approach to medical problems could revolutionize how we treat interspecies medical emergencies." Dr. Kell's 4 eyes lit up with excitement. "Elena is right. If we can combine medical knowledge with engineering principles, we might be able to solve problems that have puzzled doctors for centuries." Captain Morris nodded approvingly. "I am authorizing the creation of a new interdisciplinary medical research team. Dr. Elena will lead the medical side, and Mr. Rivera will head the engineering applications division." Tom stared at the captain in shock. "Sir, I do not have any medical training. I would not know where to start." "You would start exactly where you started today," Elena said with a warm smile, "by looking at problems in a new way, by seeing solutions where others see only difficulties." The medical bay buzzed with excitement as the implications of Tom's success became clear. News feeds throughout the station reported the story, and messages of congratulations poured in from other research facilities throughout the galaxy. "This is going to make you famous," Lieutenant Maya said to Tom. "The human who solved an alien medical crisis with engineering." Tom shook his head. "I do not want to be famous. I just want to help people." "And that," Captain Morris said, "is exactly why you are the right person for this new position, Mr. Rivera. You have shown us that the best solutions often come from the most unexpected places." As the crowd in the medical bay began to disperse, Elena remained beside Tom. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You gave me back my life." Tom looked at her healthy purple skin and steady breathing. You know what the best part is? Now, I understand your species' respiratory system better than most doctors. Next time something like this happens, we will be ready. Elena laughed, a musical sound that filled the medical bay with joy. Next time, we will solve it together. The success of Tom's intervention had created something new on Nexus Prime, a bridge between medical science and practical engineering that would save countless lives in the future. Tom had proven once again that humans' greatest strength was not their technology or their knowledge, but their ability to think differently when others had given up hope. 3 months after Elena's life-saving treatment, Nexus Prime had become a completely different place. The new interdisciplinary medical protocols that Tom and Elena developed together had already saved 12 lives across 6 different species. Word of their success had spread throughout the galaxy, and the station was now receiving visitors from medical institutions across dozens of worlds. Tom stood in his new laboratory, a space that looked like no medical facility anyone had ever seen before. Engineering tools sat next to medical scanners. Pressure gauges were mounted beside biological monitors. Pipes and tubes of various sizes hung from the ceiling, creating a testing area where Tom could simulate different biological systems. The Andorian delegation will be here in 2 hours, Elena said, entering the lab with a stack of data tablets. They want to see how we treat their species' gill blockage problems. Tom looked up from the respiratory model he was adjusting. Are you ready for the demonstration? Elena smiled. I have been ready for weeks. The Andorian gill system is actually simpler than Thylorian breathing ducts. Your pressure differential technique should work perfectly. Over the past 3 months, Tom and Elena had become the most famous medical research team in the galaxy. Their approach combined Elena's deep knowledge of alien biology with Tom's practical engineering solutions. Together, they had solved medical problems that had puzzled doctors for generations. I still cannot believe how much has changed, Tom said, wiping his hands on a towel. 3 months ago, I was just fixing air filters. Now I am teaching medical students about fluid dynamics. And I was just another medical officer, Elena replied. Now I am learning engineering principles that help me understand biology in completely new ways. Their success had attracted attention from the highest levels of galactic government. The United Species Medical Council had officially adopted their interdisciplinary approach as a standard protocol. Medical schools throughout the galaxy were now requiring engineering courses for their students. Dr. Kell entered the laboratory, carrying a communication device. Tom, Elena, I have news from the Regalian Medical Academy. They want to offer you both permanent positions as professors. Tom and Elena exchanged glances. They had received similar offers from dozens of institutions, but they had turned them all down. Their work on Nexus Prime was too important to abandon. Thank you, Dr. Kell, but our answer is the same, Elena said politely. We want to stay here and continue developing new techniques. Dr. Kell nodded. He had expected this response. I understand. But I think you should know that your work is changing medical education throughout the galaxy. Students are learning to think like engineers, and engineers are learning basic biology. Tom felt a sense of pride mixed with amazement. I never thought that clearing a blocked pipe could lead to all this. It was not just clearing a pipe, Dr. Kell said seriously. It was seeing a solution where others saw only problems. That is the human gift, the ability to approach any situation with fresh eyes. The laboratory door opened, and Commander Rex entered with a group of young officers. Tom, Elena, I brought the new medical trainees to see your demonstration. Tom looked at the group of eager young faces representing 6 different species. Who can tell me what happens when fluid flow is restricted in a curved pipe? A young Centaurian officer raised her hand. The pressure builds up behind the restriction, and the flow becomes turbulent. Exactly, Tom said. And what do we do to clear the restriction? Create pressure differentials to move the blockage, answered a Thylorian student. Apply pressure from behind and suction from the front. Elena stepped forward. And how do we apply this to medical treatment? We treat biological systems like engineering systems, said a human trainee. We use the same principles, but much more carefully because we are working with living tissue. Tom smiled proudly. These students understood concepts that had taken him years to develop. They were learning to think across disciplines, combining medical knowledge with engineering principles. Very good, Elena said. Now, let us practice with the Andorian Gill model. As the students worked with the training equipment, Tom reflected on how much his life had changed. He had gone from being a simple maintenance engineer to being a pioneer in interdisciplinary medicine. But more importantly, he had helped create a new way of thinking that was saving lives throughout the galaxy. Captain Morris entered the laboratory, looking pleased. Tom, Elena, I have just received a message from the Galactic Medical Council. They want to establish permanent interdisciplinary medical centers on 50 stations throughout the galaxy. They are calling it the Rivera-Elena Protocol. Tom felt his face turn red. Captain, I do not think my name should be on it. Elena is the real medical expert. And I could not have done any of this without Tom's engineering insights, Elena said quickly. We are a team. Which is exactly why both your names belong on the protocol, Captain Morris said. You have shown that the best solutions come from combining different types of knowledge. A communication alert sounded throughout the laboratory. Dr. Kell checked his device and looked excited. We have an emergency in Base 7. A Zephyrian trader is having breathing problems. Their respiratory system is completely different from anything we have seen before. Tom and Elena looked at each other and grinned. This was exactly the kind of challenge they loved. Let us go, Tom said, grabbing his portable pressure equipment. Time to solve another impossible problem. As they hurried toward Base 7, Elena laughed. You know, Tom, I think we make a good team. The best, Tom agreed. An engineer and a doctor solving problems that nobody else can solve. Behind them, the medical students followed eagerly, excited to see the Rivera-Elena Protocol in action once again. They knew they were witnessing history, the birth of a new kind of medicine that combined the best of science and engineering. The emergency in Base 7 would be just another success story in the growing legend of the human maintenance engineer who had revolutionized galactic medicine. Tom Rivera had proven that sometimes the most important breakthroughs come not from experts, but from someone willing to look at old problems in completely new ways. As they reached the medical bay, Tom felt a familiar surge of excitement. Another species, another medical mystery, another chance to prove that human ingenuity could overcome any obstacle. Elena was right, they made a perfect team. And together, they would continue to save lives and change the galaxy, one block duct at a time.